It's Chirpin' Crickets. This is Kim from Kim Takes On. I'm Kim. Hi. And this is my co-producer, my co-conspirator, and my friend of friends, Terrence the Wonder Duck. Terrence says hi. He hopes you're all having an excellent weekend out there. As we move on into the end of another time thing, with the whole spring forward, fall back thing. Personally, I think it's all a pain in the butt. And I think that they should either keep daylight savings time an all year thing or get rid of it. I don't really care which. I just want one of them to go away, because this whole, do other people have this problem? You can tell me. You can tell me, crickets. We're all friends, right? Because I don't know about the rest of you guys, but whenever they do the whole spring forward, fall back thing, like for the next couple of days after that, I am a total mess. I can't focus. I get really distracted, really. I'm sorry, what was I talking about? Distracted. Yeah. Thank you, Terrence. Terrence gets distracted too. Considering he doesn't really do very much all day but look cute. So, what does that tell you? But I get very distracted, and my energy level goes like really kind of wonky when we have to do the whole daylight savings time begins or ends or begins or whatever the frack it is, because it's so annoying. Okay, that's enough of me complaining about something that I have absolutely no control over, which a lot of people seem to be doing lately, politics. Okay, that was my one political joke. That was it. Not going to do any more, because let's be honest, politics anymore is just not funny. So, what are we going to talk about today on my little old show? And today we're going to talk about two things that are very important to me: music and superheroes. I am a person that I've mentioned before. I love comics. I love comic book movies and comic book TV shows and stuff like that. And I've always been a superhero fan, and it's so funny because people, a lot of people when they get older, they're like, superhero stuff, that's for kids, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it really isn't. It doesn't have to be. I mean, besides the fact that there are certain characters and certain, comic books or graphic novels, whatever, that are definitely not for children, or at least not for anybody who's not a teenager, stuff like Spawn, stuff like that. Not that I'm saying they're not awesome, but, you definitely wouldn't want a small kid reading something like, The Punisher or something like that. That's going a little bit too hardcore, but when you think about the fact that superheroes have become what used to be folk heroes, like back in the day, way, let me add 75 more ways onto there. Back in the day, when they had the myths and the legends of people like Hercules or Gilgamesh, going even further back. And, people like that, all of the myths told by the Greeks and the Romans and the Celts and the Egyptians, and all the heroes and villains and all the adventures and all the Odysseys and Iliads and what have yous and so on and so forth and stuff like that. That evolved and changed and stuff like that. And it went into being, it evolved into being the folk heroes of different cultures, from things like the characters in Journey to the West in China to characters in American folklore like, Johnny Appleseed or Paul Bunyan or people like that, and superheroes and superhero characters and things like that are a progression of that. I think a lot of superheroes are the characters, are the people that we wish in our hearts we wish we could be, because we'd like to think that, wow, if I woke up someday and I had powers like Superman, I'd go out there and I'd do my best to make the world a better place and stuff like that and things like that, some of us are a little more honest with ourselves than other people. As in, if somebody said to me, hey, we can give you Superman's powers, do you want them? I would be like, hell no, because I'm not worthy of them. I know I'm not. That, and it's just too much of a temptation to go out and cause mischief. That's one thing I'm kind of good at. But anyway, as I've mentioned, superheroes and music, amongst other various and sundry things, are something that I'm very much into. And superheroes and TV have been kind of hand in glove in certain periods. I mean, TV is really funny like that. The television landscape goes through lots of peaks and valleys and whatnots. Things that were popular a decade ago might be less popular now, or maybe more popular, depending on what it was. I mean, if you go back and look at like the beginning of TV, when TV was like this new big, oh my gosh, what is this new invention thing? And then a little bit further forward, there were a lot of the same kind of shows on television. Like you had a lot of shows about the American West, or about like police procedurals and stuff like that, to the point where now literally on TV you can go and check your little cable doodly-doo, and you'll find channels that's all they show all day long, 24/7, is Western programs or talk shows or crime shows or reality shows, because let's face it, most reality shows are about as real as your average pro wrestling match. No offense intended out there to anybody who's a wrestling fan like me, but y'all get what I mean. So I think that it's really interesting when you watch that, everything kind of ebbs and flows, and that's kind of the way the universe is. For a while something is popular and then it's not. But the superhero genre has had a very interesting time in the peaks and valleys and waves and whatnot. And I know I'm mixing my metaphors. I do that. I'm such the rebel. That at certain points, one superhero show would become popular, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon for a little while. And then you have another superhero show that becomes popular, and it's in a different style, and people try and jump onto that bandwagon. We'll get to that in a minute. But even now, we started with, they started with The Flash, a couple of years ago on CW, and then the Arrowverse, and then Legends of Tomorrow, and all these things. And, unfortunately, all that stuff is now gone off the CW. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks, really. Took away my supernatural, and you take away everything else. People wouldn't know good music. People wouldn't know good shows if it bit you on the... All right, no, I'm not going to say it, Terrence. Calm down. He's very, very concerned that I will not say something that will get us in trouble or demonetized. Is that what they call it when you don't make money? Not like I'm making any money off this anyway. But moving forward. Okay, what were we talking about? Music. Yes. Okay. So... this is not a list as in my favorites from 10 to 1 or whatever. These are just different, observations of different superhero shows and their theme music that I wanted to talk about this week on my little old podcast with me and my sweet little co-producer here, Fred. I'm sorry, Terrence. I've never shown you guys Fred. Fred is actually related to Terrence. Fred is my purse duck. He lives in my purse. Because why not? I mean, people ask me why all the time. Like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? And I'm always like, why not? And then if they keep asking me, then I'm kind of like, you're annoying. And that's That's the tone of voice. People who know me who know me well enough know that's the tone of voice. Okay, she's officially had enough. Capital H, capital E. Oh, so all right. So anyway, where was I? Okay. So if you go all the way back, and I mean, again, where Sherman set the Wayback Machine for 1949 is when this show started. The Lone Ranger, The Adventures of the Lone Ranger, which of course everybody knows who the Lone Ranger is because the character has been around in various iterations since the 1940s. And he's also appeared on the radio and stuff like that, and in cartoons and in live action movies, which we won't talk about. But I think everybody, when they think of the Lone Ranger, you automatically, immediately think of his theme music, which is the William Tell Overture, written by Rossini. And, the whole, thundering hoofs in a cloud of dust and a mighty hi-ho silver and all that stuff like that. And it just works. It's so crazy how that song, which was written, decades ago, before this even became a thing, before Rossini would have been like, television, what's that? That this song works so well with the imagery that they would have, especially at the beginning of the show. The whole song is, when you see when you see Silver running and the hoof beats and stuff like that, it's very, it's very, I don't know what the word I want is. It's very it just works. It's very natural. It's very organic. It just really works really, really well. Jumping forward a little bit to the 1960s. Now, this is where we start getting into an area that people either love or people who are very serious about superheroes, which I'm not knocking anybody for. If you have to be serious about something, you might as well be serious about that. Certain people begin to have hang-ups. Actually, backtracking a little, we need to mention, of course, the 1950s, which brought us The Adventures of Superman, which was the music was written by, I'm going to mess this name up, I'm so sorry, Leon Klatskin. I hope I said that right. I don't know if he was also the gentleman that did the announcing, the narration about, Superman, being from another planet and, mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent, blah, 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 etc. You all know the drill. But, that really worked. I mean, it really worked so well. And it was filmed so well with the whole thing of Superman standing there and what has now become the Superman pose, that bit. And the whole truth, justice, and the American way. Yeah, truth, justice, and the American way, not all that stuff. Well, I've always felt like Superman was a hero for the planet. That's just my take, but what do I know? But that was a great theme as well. So now we get to the 60s, and now things get a little bit off-center. Let's go with off-center. Because we, of course, the 1960s brought us the Batman TV show. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go into some enormous dissertation about the nature of camp and whether or not camp is good, bad, indifferent, a total waste of time, absolute genius, whatever. You're entitled to your opinion. Your mileage may vary from mine. Considering the fact that this is kind of what introduced me to Batman in a live action sense. So this has a place in my heart from a nostalgia point of view. The music being, I'm consulting my notes here. The music being done by Neil Hefti. I think it's pronounced Hefti. And everybody knows the music and the animated opening and stuff like that. And like I said, I mean, I know some people are like, oh, I've heard some people be very, you know, angry, I guess, for lack of a better term, that they're like, oh, Batman's such a serious character and this was a terrible idea and how dare they do this and blah, blah, etc. and so forth. Like I said, your mileage may vary. To me, it has a warmth of nostalgia about it. My only issue with the whole camp, looking at a superhero through a camp lens, is that because they did it once and it was a big success, people, of course, tried to jump on the bandwagon and do it again and again and again, and to various degrees of diminishing success. You had like characters like Captain Nice and Mr. Terrific and stuff like that, which, I mean, there's camp and then there's taking the piss out of stuff. And then you had a show like The Green Hornet, which this just didn't work. I mean, and it should have worked. Van Williams was fine as the Green Hornet, and it had Bruce Lee in it. The show had Bruce frickin' Lee in it. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. I'm sorry, and I've always been a Bruce Lee fangirl, and I always will be. So, but the thing is, I don't know why I don't like the Green Hornet. I just don't. What I've seen of it, and I haven't seen all of them, and I will admit that, it's not, would it have benefited from being done campy? No, I don't think it would have. But doing it seriously with kind of a slight layer of camp, I guess, maybe you could call what they did, I don't think that worked either. Although the theme music was great. The theme of the Green Hornet, which partially incorporated or sampled or whatever, or no, it's not sampled, the whatever term they use nowadays, because ripping off sounds so tacky, doesn't it? Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee, played by Al Hurt, who I have so much respect for, because I'm like, dude, how did you play that and not blow out a lung? I mean, it was just amazing. But for me, the theme music was so much more identifiable than the series, to the point where when they used a little snippet of the theme to the Green Hornet in one of the Kill Bill movies, I was like, hey, I know that. I know that from somewhere else, which is the same thing I was doing when I was like, why are they using the theme to Ironside? What's going on? Quentin Tarantino is a very, very, very person. He's just very, you can put whatever you want after that, brilliant, eccentric, however you want to word it. He's just very. And no, I'm not saying that because I'd like a part in your next movie, Mr. Tarantino. Why would you think that? Sucking up when begging just won't do. All right, we're going to move forward now. And we're moving into the 70s. Now, the 70s was another example of them trying to bring back superheroes. And in certain cases, it worked. In certain cases, it was, Two cases where it worked. Wonder Woman. The Adventures of Wonder Woman. Specifically, I'm speaking about the 1940s version of Wonder Woman, where she was fighting Nazis, being a champion of America and all that during World War II, etc., and so forth. And it had one of the most amazing themes ever. The lyrics by, let me just look up this name here real fast. Norman Gimbel and the music by Charles Fox. You know, even if you just play a little snippet of that for someone from around my age group, they're going to know that's the theme to Wonder Woman. Did I like it more when Wonder Woman changed networks and they bumped it up to the future or the present of 1970s? Not as much. I mean, to be perfectly honest, not as much. And also from the 70s, The Incredible Hulk. Now, excuse me just for 2 seconds. Sorry, dry throat is the bane of every podcaster. The Incredible Hulk, which is another show that had a terrific opening, with the narration by Jack Cassidy about the misfortunes of Dr. David Banner, physician, scientist, trying to find the ways to, and all that stuff like that. And the whole, Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I've used that line in real life entirely too often. R.I.P. Bill Bixby. He was just amazing. And the song, and of course, the one thing that everybody completely remembers from The Incredible Hulk was the music that they played over the end credits, which was a song called "The Lonely Man," written by Joe Harnell, and it was so heartbreaking and so perfect. And I've heard it used in other places. I mean, they actually used it in some of the Incredible Hulk films that made it to the big screen. I'm pretty sure they used it in the Edward Norton version. I know in the Edward Norton version, they used like a kind of a twist on the whole, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry stuff. Anybody out there have a favorite Hulk who plays it? I'm sorry. I loved Bill Bixby. I loved what they did with the character, but I gotta say Mark Ruffalo's my favorite. I gotta say that. Hi, Mark. So like I mentioned, there were some other attempts in the 70s that didn't go so well for one reason or another. One example that was kind of this is interesting. Sometimes interesting can be good, and sometimes interesting is less good. If you ever watched Iron Chef and you saw anybody going toward the ice cream maker, you were usually like, oh no. All my Iron Chef fans out there, hey. When CBS decided that they were going to do their own series about the Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, now, I'm not going to lie and be like I didn't like this at the time, because I did, because I thought Nicholas Hammond was hot. I'm a woman, I have needs, don't judge me. But now that I'm older and wiser, if you can't lie to yourself, who else are you going to lie to, right? Older and read a lot more comic books. We'll go with that. I was like, why is he so old? Why did they make him a college student? Where's Uncle Ben? Why aren't there any supervillains? What the heck did you people do to Spider-Man? I'm sorry. I got a teeny bit militant. Just that much. I get passionate about things, okay? But the one thing that I will always remember about that show was the fact that because it was the 70s, of course, we had to be very heavy on the wachika in the opening, music and stuff like that. The 70s were the decade of the wachika, kids. If you don't know that, look it up. I mean, it's just, I'm like, this is not working. I mean, like I said, though, there were so many other things about that show. Looking back on it, I'm like, wow, boy, you guys really messed up. I mean, I thought it was completely like, okay, this is not exactly Spider-Man. Then I saw the Japanese version of Spider-Man, and I was like, never mind. Forget it. I'm not going to say anything else. And there were other attempts in the 70s, the 2 Captain America movies starring Reb Brown, which we will not talk about, and the version that they attempted to do of Doctor Strange back then, which we will also not talk about. The 80s brought us The Flash, which I absolutely loved. Considering Flash it's not that I disliked the character, but I didn't know a lot about him other than, oh, he runs fast. Good for him. I was just kind of like, okay, that's it. That's all he does. He can run fast. That's it. Okay. I mean, it never occurred to me when I was like super, super small that, running fast, you can like phase through walls or like outrun bullets or crap. I was just, when I was really small and I remember watching like Super Friends and stuff like that. Oh, that's the Flash. Oh, he runs really fast. That's it. Neat. What's Superman doing? Yes. I know, and I know TC's grinding his teeth right now. I'm sorry I was such a plebeian back then, Puddin'. I'm sorry. And of course, the 80s version of The Flash, played by John Wesley Shipp. Wow. And also having Mark Hamill as the trickster. Hello. Oh my gosh. The opening music was done by Danny Elfman, who we'd already known from the Batman version of the 1989 version of Batman. I can talk when I let my mouth and my brain will eventually work together. It just takes a little time. We already knew that Danny Elfman could do amazing superhero stuff from his version of the music for Batman from 1989, the 1989 big screen version. And when he did something for the smaller screen with The Flash, it was just as cool. I thought it was just as cool. And, we come into the 2000s and 2010s and so, forward and stuff. And the CW brings back The Flash and brings back John Wesley Shipp as Barry's dad. I'm like, okay. We're gonna, and we bring back Mark Hamill as the trickster, who is the father of the new trickster. And I'm like, this is gonna make my brain explode from sheer awesomeness. I love you, Mark. Yes, I'm a Luke Skywalker fangirl, and I will be till the day I keel over. Deal. That music was awesome too, and that was actually a great show. I really did like their version of The Flash, and I really liked Grant Gustin as Barry Allen, even though I constantly called him Kitten because I just thought he was so sweet and just adorable. And I know TC's gritting his teeth again. Sorry. And I'm like, those are all of the superhero movies. I'm sorry. All these superhero TV shows that I can think of that have great themes that meant something to me, that were important to me. And the one thing that I think is so cool about a lot of them was the narration. You had the narration with the Lone Ranger, with the Incredible Hulk. You had lyrics with Wonder Woman and stuff like that. And I thought those were really cool. I thought they really worked, and they really helped to bring the show to people who you might have somebody that comes in a couple of, didn't see the opening episode of something, and they're like, oh wow, so this explains who this character is and what their motivations are and stuff like that. And I think that's very cool. I always thought that was really cool. And I'd love to know if you have a favorite superhero theme from a TV show, if you have a favorite superhero show. I like too many things, and I'll be like, well, this is my favorite now, and then tomorrow my favorite will be something completely different because that's the way my mind works. Ta-da! But if you have any questions, comments, queries, complaints, honey, send it to platinumroselle@yahoo.com. If you liked this little silly show, which I hope you did, please click on the like button, and please click on the subscribe button for this channel, which is all full of super cool things from my super cool, incredibly talented, exceedingly patient Puddin', my fella, my angel, my sweetums, TC, who puts all this glorious stuff together and puts smart mouth words over on the other side of the screen, usually where I'm not pointing to because I get all confused about directions. But he always drops in a bon mot every once in a while. And we would just love to know that you like all of our stuff and will subscribe and spread the word about all of the shows that we do, because there's tons of cool music on here. And TC has some shows that are all about AM 70s music and all about disco. And I can't believe I'm advertising somebody's disco show, but that shows how much I love that man o' mine. So for another week, this is Kim, and this is Terrence the Wonder Duck. And Terrence and I are wishing you a great week, and we're hoping that everybody out there will stay safe, have a great week, and keep on rocking.